shoot. 3, 2. Ready? 3, 2.
What would you say to law enforcement to help better your relationship between law enforcement and the community?
I would say to law enforcement, we really have to understand or try to understand who these people are. When you come into a community that you've never been associated with, or to a community that you've never lived in, you need to go talk to people. And you will be very surprised of what you may receive. Because the first thing they're going to ask you is, where did you grow up at? Have you ever lived amongst us? What is your perception that you've gotten from TV or radio or newspapers or articles? What perception do you have of us? Now that may seem a little stretch, but you'd be surprised some of the people that are very educated in some of the communities that they will serve. Not everybody's ignorant in those communities. Not everybody's walking around with sagging pants. Not everybody's smoking a joint or drinking a 40 ounce or got low riders. There are some very well-to-do, middle-class people in a lot of those neighborhoods. A lot of places in South Central LA that you drive by, you will see some very manicured lawns, some nice homes that you would be shocked that they even exist. But you don't see those areas because those areas don't have a lot of crime going on in them. So the areas that you're in where there's crime written, that's all you see, and you think that's all it is. So I would tell law enforcement is that you need to talk to the people in the community. I recently went to a class where they was talking about the same thing we're talking about now. And when they told the deputies to go do this, the deputies was like, man, ain't nobody going to talk to us. This is just a waste of time. They sent those guys out, and they knocked on this one lady's door, and she didn't answer. They said, see, I knew she wasn't going to talk to us. And so the lady came to the door. She said, yeah, what do y'all want? Well, man, we want to. I don't want to talk to y'all. Get away from my door. Just get on out of here. I don't need y'all help. Y'all don't come around and help enough. Just get on away from here. So it's like, I knew it. So as they turned around, she said, but, in a low voice, you see that house across the street? Drugs is going on there day and night. Y'all need to do something about that because we sick and tired of it. And so after she did that, they took care of business. And from that time on, they had all kind of pertinent information on what was going on in the neighborhood. They would come by Miss Johnson's house and Mrs. Smith's house, just checking up on you, see how you doing, and she'd be like, oh, I'm fine. And then in a low tone would give them the information they needed. And in the end, those deputies all admitted that they were shocked that the black community would respond the way they did. And it changed their perception of that community. And so I would say to law enforcement, we must change in the way that we do business. Because if we don't, we will end up with another 1992 situation and beyond. Because people are tired. The economic situation has changed things. People will become desperate if law enforcement and the community don't learn how to respect one another, learn how to live with one another, and learn how to deal with one another. And that's my piece I would say to law enforcement, that we must, it is a must, get to know and understand the people that we work for.
That's a pretty good message. But what would you say to the community to help better their relationship between them and law enforcement?
I actually have a two-part response. The first response is to the question to law enforcement. To law enforcement, I'd like to say this. See, understand something. I and we not your enemies. Let's understand that. But if you run into one, and you will, that look like me, and he is outside of his mind, then understand that there are and were causative factors to bring him or her or that person to that particular state. Now, Officer Stan spoke to a really true dynamic, and it has to do with how you, Mr. Law Enforcement and Miss Law Enforcement, how you handle us. I know what your training manual says, and I even know what they teach you in the academy. But what you must understand, that kind of training does not work. And anybody who's in law enforcement that has done it one day on the street, you know that the difference is like night and day. Is that right, Officer Stan?
Yes, it is.
The man is, he working. So he's sitting here bearing witness that it's a whole total different reality. So what you have to understand is this. Even if you don't, as a person working in the capacity for the betterment of the taxpayers in all communities, even if you don't understand the people there, there's one sure way in which you can learn how to understand the people, and that is to show up, because that is certainly your job capacity as well as job description, to show up, but don't always show up with this Gestapo attitude that most, from my experience, have showed up and dealt with black and brown. I know about black and brown because, or more particularly, black males and our brown family members, because that is our community. We don't even get along with one another, which is part of the issue as well. But as far as law enforcement, you have to know that, like Officer Stan said, that we are human beings. We only, as black and brown, desire the same kind of respect that you would give your white grandfather, right? Or your white daughter, or your black, brown, red, yellow, or even white person who may live in a ritzy neighborhood who can pay the rent. That kind of respect that you instinctively evoke because you recognize that you're in a much more well-to-do area versus a ghetto kind of environment or area. You know how to switch reels, as we say. So understand that if you're going to be dealing with us, just for a moment, try to look at us first as human beings. And I'm even talking to those black female officers and black male officers who wear this uniform that represents authority and to protect and to serve because many of you are guilty for helping to incarcerate our people. It's the same thing as slavery. Yes, some of us were involved. It ain't no different. So what you have to understand is this. I'm here to try and help you with a dilemma. Yes, I've been to prison. Yes, I've been handled. Yes, there's absolutely no way that I walked away from that experience totally unscathed. But I'd like to think that I'm wise enough and mature enough to look out at you, law enforcement, politicians, even our beautiful president, and say, I'd like to help you. Brother Stan, who also is in law enforcement, he'd like to help you as well. So we are here. No one threatened us. We have families. We could have stayed home and watched the Lakers and, I don't know, Chicago, and we could have did all that. We could have went jet skiing and all of that. But no, we chose to take out time from our schedule to sit down and really, really talk to you so that you could at least understand that if you really, really, really want to change the tide, there is a way that it can be done. Because if you continue on the same course with your Gestapo kind of tactics in our community, you are soon to have a Vietnam on the streets of L.A., Compton, Chicago, Detroit, Philly, New York State, and throughout this entire country. And it will stem from a long, long track record of how you treated us. Now, I'm not saying that there are some of us who are actually guilty for what they did, or if you catch them while they're dirty. I'm not saying that's not true, because it is. But you got to understand what has happened to these people to make them act like that. We don't wake up being criminals. We don't want to be gangbangers. We want to work like you work. We want to pay taxes like you pay taxes. We want to go to church. We want to take our families to picnics. We want to do all of that. We want to do this. We want to take our wives to dinner, Mr. Police Officer.
Sorry to cut you off. This message is for, who would you say this message, this whole video recording, who is it directed towards?
Pretty much everybody.
Pretty much everybody.
Law enforcement for sure. The community for sure. Schools. Any organization that wants to make this world a better place. That's what this video is for.
I'm sorry. Both of the cameras, like the cars are full, so we want to get one more shot, a good shot of that, the ending.
The ending?
Yeah.
Okay.
These two, they're done.
Yeah, and I'll just put this car back in the middle if there's a
So this is the only camera we have.
second answer.
Okay.
So we can just get one
That's
more.
what we're going to do.
Shot.
Move this camera here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do.
And then, I'll help you want to pause that.
Thank you.
And you want to re-ask that last question then?
Sorry about that.